How's it going? So you got yourself a new griddle, congratulations. But you want to know how to use it now and probably like avoid common mistakes, you know? Well, I've had my griddle for 5 years and I spent 2 years managing a diner, and this is everything I think a beginner needs to know to make great food for their family. First of all, propane tanks. These are like coolers of beer at a tailgate. You always need a backup. Do you need to paint yours to look like Hank Hill? No, but you know, it's a lot more fun if you do. Another quick thing about the propane tanks, if your griddle's not getting hot enough, you might have tripped the flow check valve. You'll notice this if you have a small, weak flame, or if like you put food down and it's just not hot and it's not cooking, it's taking forever. What happened is there's a safety feature on the tank that it thinks there's a leak, and this usually happens if you opened up the valve too quickly or left one of the burners on. Most commonly what I see is one of the burners getting left on, and then you screw in the tank and it checks the flow, and so you just get a little bit of gas, so it works, but it's not getting hot. So here's how you fix it. You turn all the burner knobs off. Unscrew the propane tank. Wait about 30 seconds for the pressure to reset. Reconnect the hose snugly. I don't know if snugly is a word, just make sure it's tight, okay? Slowly open the propane tank about 1 turn per second. Then light your griddle normally, the flames should look normal and everything should work. Common questions I get about griddling real quick: can you use it indoors, on a balcony, or in the garage? Indoors, no, that sounds terribly dangerous. I wouldn't recommend doing that. On a balcony, I guess, I don't know. I'd probably ask your HOA or your apartment complex, see if they're cool with that. In a garage, no, pretty much no. Every manufacturer in their manual say don't use it in a garage. So I'm not gonna be on the internet telling you to use it in a garage. So then when you burn your house down, you're like, Johnny Burnett told me to do that. So they say no. Have I ever used mine in a garage? Seasoning a griddle is pretty simple. I'll go a quick overview, but I have a more detailed video for every one of these sections in a playlist I'll link at the end. So what you'll need is paper towels, tongs, oil, and however many beers you think you'll need for like an hour and a half's worth of work. That's like 3 or 4 to me. Could be more for you, could be less, I'm not judging. Whatever gets you to your happy place, you know? As for what oil to use, there's tons of hot takes on the internet. I personally have used canola, Blackstone, and avocado. They all worked out just fine for me. I don't speak on anything that I haven't used, so, you know, I can just tell you what I've used and they all worked good for me. I will mention bacon. Do not season it with bacon initially, or it'll start to peel and chip. You shouldn't use an animal fat for the first seasoning. The only way that works is if you're using it every single day. You have to use it like every day. If not, it'll peel and chip. So use an oil for seasoning. We'll do bacon later. Okay, step by step. Clean the griddle with warm water. You can use soap if you want, then rinse it and dry completely. Turn it on high for 15 minutes. It will start to darken up. That's normal. Add a thin layer of oil across the surface. I recommend 3 tablespoons for a 4-burner griddle and 2 tablespoons for a 2-burner griddle. Using too much oil is the most common mistake I see here. People use a lot of oil. You want it as thin as possible. That's why I gave those kind of measurements to help you out. Let it smoke off for about 15, maybe 20 minutes until you see no more smoke. Then turn off your burner and let it cool down before doing it again. We're gonna burn off more coats, but you have to let it cool all the way down before you do your other coats of oil. It's time consuming, but it really needs to cool down in between burning off coats. And we're gonna burn off a total of 5 coats. I used to recommend 3 to 5, now I just tell people 5. Just burn off 5 coats. It should look pretty black at this point, at the end. If you would like to, now is a good time. For your first cook, you can do bacon, pound of bacon, and maybe a whole bag of sliced onions. I don't have any scientific proof behind this, but I really feel like that helps set the seasoning. And then you can make bacon onion smash burgers. Who doesn't want one of those? Oils, what oil should you cook with? Again, oil is a real hot topic for some reason in the griddle community. I don't know why. I'm gonna tell you my preferences. This is for me and me alone. I'm not going over anything health related. Why? Because I'm not a doctor. You should not take advice from me about health related things or anybody else on the internet. So people have a lot of opinions. If you want to put your opinion in the comments about what's healthy and what's not, and you're not a doctor, I'll probably just delete it, just letting you know. So this isn't the time or the place. If you do want to know which oils are and are not healthy for you, I would recommend, you guessed it, calling your doctor. High smoke point oils are great for griddling because these things get hot. I would say 90% of the time I just use avocado oil. It has a high smoke point and it has a neutral flavor. That's usually my go-to oil. Clarified butter, ghee, they have higher smoke points. I've also used peanut oil a lot. People like beef tallow. I like peanut oil when I'm doing like a shallow fry, like my tacos dorados here. I like kind of used a lot of peanut oil and crisped up the corn tortillas in that. So those are also great options that people use, and I've used, like I said, peanut oil a lot. Canola oil is a very cheap option that has a decent smoke point. It's also the one that people hate for some reason for the health thing or whatever. So I don't know, keep that in mind. That's an option. I'm not gonna not mention it. Low smoke point oils like olive oil or butter or something like that, you can use them. You can, you just gotta watch the temperature of your griddle. Make sure it's at a lower smoke point. I use butter all the time. I use it on my eggs. I just try to make sure my temperature is lowered down to like 300, 325. I use butter at the end for like these mushrooms here. I'll put it at the end with the veggies to add like buttery flavor. Or like basting a steak. I use it whenever I do steak. I baste the steak in butter, I melt it, and then I just kind of toss the butter on top. Oil alternatives, bacon up is a popular one. It doesn't have a super high smoke point. I have a smoke point chart in my ebook that goes over them if you really want to deep dive on that. But people like bacon up, gives everything a bacon flavor, so that's an option, or just cook some bacon. Whirl is another oil. It's a buttery oil. I'm not sure what Whirl is made of. It's shelf stable. We use it all the time in the diner. Most diners use it because it's cheap and it's shelf stable. Is it good for you? Again, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'd lean towards probably not if I was a betting man, but it's an option and it will give you that greasy spoon diner flavor if you want to go that route. And a quick note about sprays. I've used aerosol sprays. Blackstone says don't use aerosol spray because it'll lead to flaking and chipping, but then they say they sell a spray that will not lead to flaking and chipping. So I don't know. I've used them, I haven't had any problems, but now I have this 2-in-1 spray oil bottle, so I can turn any oil into a mist with not needing to worry about that. So that's what I use. And that brings us to our next category. Accessories. The only thing you have to have are tongs, metal spatula, paper towels, and a couple ice cold beers. That's all you need. The more expensive the paper towel, the better it will be. It won't leave around little fuzzies after the end. Some people like the blue shop towels. That's an option there. Your tongs and your spatula, make sure they're metal. Your spatula, I would try to definitely get one with a beveled edge so you can get under smash burgers and kind of get them off the griddle and other foods on the griddle. A lot of people like squirt bottles. You can use them for water and for oil. Like I said, I'll use the one for water to melt cheese and stuff, but I had this 2-in-1 that was dirt cheap. It was like $9 on Amazon to pour oil or squirt oil. I've been using it for about 6-7 months now. Really like it, so that's kind of my go-to for oil now. Smash burger press, you don't have to get one of these. You can just sear your smash burger ball, flip it over, and then use 2 spatulas if you want. However, it is really nice, and I do think you get a better press on it, and I usually use it a lot. So that's a good accessory that if you plan on making smash burgers, which you probably bought this to do stuff like that, then it's worth your time. A little wire rack, I really like this one because it doesn't take up too much space, but I can get stuff off the surface of the griddle to stop cooking, but to still stay warm. So this one I use a lot, especially for bacon. When the bacon finishes, I'll lift it on the rack and then the grease will drip through and I'll push it into the grease trap. A dome for melting cheese. I don't melt cheese with it as much. Cheese seems to melt on its own or a little water, but I do veggies and I do potatoes a lot. Like if you put potatoes on there, put the dome on it, it will kind of create a little makeshift oven and it'll help cook them through on the inside and then you can spread them back out. So a lot of people like a dome. I use my dome a decent amount. And finally, an infrared thermometer. I think this is the most important accessory for a new griddle owner. I'm not gonna say it's like mandatory like the first 3, but I do think it's the most helpful thing a new griddle owner can get. You got to know your temperature on the griddle, and you got to learn your temperatures. You may not use it forever. You may get used to your griddle, but for the first couple months, I think it's so helpful to know what temperature your griddle is at. I like this 2-in-1 that is a probe, so you can stick it into the meat to get the internal meat temperature, and an infrared to get the surface temperature of your griddle. And I'll go over a little more later about temperatures on your griddle and what I like to cook at. Okay, the cooking basics. I like to preheat on low for 5 to 7 minutes. I never really preheat it on high because they just get so hot so fast, and I don't wait longer than 7 minutes, especially in summertime, because it'll just shoot way past your ideal temp. So 5 to 7 minutes, go out there, check it. Once it's ready to go, put your food down when it's at the temperature you want it at. If you preheat on high for too long, not only could you burn your food, but I actually warped one of my griddles, a Camp Chef, an older one, because I had it preheating for like probably 20 minutes on high. I got wrapped up in prepping and came back out with a 5-pound log of ground beef that was still partially frozen, and I put it on there and it warped up. So it shocked the griddle. The only way you're gonna warp a griddle is if you do an extreme temp jump. So if it's really, really hot and you put something really, really cold, like 5 pounds of frozen beef on it, it could shock it and it could warp. Mine leveled back out when it cooled down. I never had any more problems with it. It's just something to keep in mind. In the wintertime, you can cook on your griddle, even if it's like 30 degrees. I've done it before, but I just preheat it on low again, because that would still be a shock the opposite way if your griddle top was like really cold and you just cranked it to high. So, you know, just keep that in mind. If your griddle does warp, take pictures and contact the manufacturer immediately would be my recommendation. That's what I did, and it got fixed. Well, it fixed itself. A toast test is a good way to find the hot and cold spots on your griddle. Pretty simple. Turn it on low, medium low, get a bag of white bread, spread it out on your griddle top, wait 10, 12, 15 minutes, flip all those pieces over, they're now toast, and you can see a visual representation of where the hot and or cold spots are on your specific griddle. Usually the corners and the sides are gonna be cooler than the middle, but different ones will have like a spot in the middle that's like really hot, and you'll be able to find it out. So preheating and the toast test are great, but again, the infrared thermometer is the best thing, in my opinion, for learning how to cook on your griddle. It gives you the different temperatures of what you want to cook different foods at. You can't really go by the knobs. That's not a good way to do it, because think of it this way. Medium right now, this is late, almost winter, is not the same as medium in summer. Medium on my griddle in Ohio is not the same as medium on a griddle in Florida. Medium on a 2-burner Blackstone, there's different brands, is not the same as medium on a 4-burner Weber Slate or whatever it may be. So low, medium, high is not a good thing to go by. You want to go by the actual temperature of your actual griddle on that day. I have like a detailed temperature chart in my ebook, but here's a real easy overview that you can remember. It's an acronym I call EGGS, the EGGS method. So E for 300, 325 degrees is where I like to do my eggs and omelets. We always set our griddle at Bob Evans at 325 degrees. That's the diner I worked at in the Midwest. And that's where I did all the eggs and omelets nice and low. G is for general cooking. That's pretty much everything else. Pancakes, potatoes, fried rice. That's 375 to 400. I do pretty much 90% of my cooking there. And S is for searing steaks or smash burgers. All S's. There you go. 450 plus. Those are the things I sear: steaks and smash burgers. 450 plus. So it's pretty simple way to remember that eggs are at the bottom, steaks and smash burgers at the top, and most of the time I just shoot for 375 to 400. Okay, so now you're probably asking, like, well, how do I get to the proper temp, Johnny? I want to preheat it for 5 to 7 minutes on low, check my temp, and then what if it's going too high or something? What should I do? Well, a couple different things. First off, if you just let this thing go, like I said, it'll keep getting hotter. The difference real quick between these and a commercial griddle like I worked at or used at Bob Evans is those ones on the knob will say like 350. You turn it to that and it'll regulate itself. It'll kick the flames on and off to make sure it stays at 350 the whole time, no matter if you put food on it or there's no food on it. These are just gonna keep getting hotter. That's the difference. So, a couple things you can do. Don't be afraid to have dual zones. So like do like half the griddle on medium and then the other half on low. Always preheat the whole griddle. I always preheat the whole thing, but then you can like adjust it, or if you want during a cook, you can turn one of the burners off. A lot of times during a cook, I'll turn like the outside burner off towards the end and just push food over there to keep it low. You don't have to have them all on the whole time. Again, I turn them all on to preheat it, and then, but during the cook, I'll kind of maybe cycle some on or off to get to the temperature that I want. Another thing for getting it to the lower temp is when you turn them off, you can still cook there. So I will still cook my eggs sometimes in the residual heat. I'm doing them last anyways. As it's cooling down, it's getting around 300, gets to where I want. If it's super hot and I really need to lower the temp for my eggs, I might squirt down some water and scrape it. This will clean that area and lower the temperature for you. Not a lot of water. I'm not dumping a ton of water on a hot griddle, but just squirting a little bit. And then I'll add more oil, and I may cook my eggs there now that I've lowered the temp to what I want it to be for eggs and omelets. Finally, cooking order. This is like the first thing they taught me when I worked at the diner at Bob Evans, which is you want to put down whatever takes the longest first. So good examples, breakfast, potatoes take the longest. Put those down first, get them going, wait, put your bacon down, sausage, your meats, then your pancakes, and then eggs and omelets, like I've already said, are last. They're always last. They're gonna cook quickly. If you do your eggs first, when you put down your potatoes, they're gonna be done and cold while you're waiting another 15 minutes for these shredded hash browns to finish up. So follow that cooking order, whatever takes the longest, put on first. Here's my quick overview of cleaning and maintenance. Again, I have more detailed videos in the playlist at the end. To clean your griddle first, turn all the burners down to low. Second, scrape off all the large pieces of food and debris you can. Third, squirt down some water and scrape up. It'll pull up any grease and stuff, and just scrape it a little more. You don't need a ton of water, just squirt down the area you're scraping. Don't dump a bucket of water again on your griddle. Then you'll wipe it clean and dry with a paper towel. And finally, apply a thin layer of oil for protection and turn it off and you're done. You're not burning off this oil each time. It's not like the seasoning. This is just a thin layer to help prevent rust. Speaking of rust usually happens when there's moisture or water on your griddle. So the best way to prevent it is not only adding the oil, but also getting a hard cover. Hard cover, most of them come with it now, but if yours did not come with a hard cover, get one. I'd highly recommend it. You could also store it inside if you want to go through that hassle of wheeling it in. That helps too. And then there's soft covers and there's the silicone mats, which work fine. They're like extra in my opinion. The hard cover is like the most important. So then those two are nice additions as well, but not necessary. Hard cover is a must. Rust removal, I have a full video on this again in that playlist, so I'll go over it quickly. There's two options. There's a pumice stone and then there's like a wire wheel. So the pumice stone is oil and pumice stone, and you're just taking off some top layers of rust and or seasoning this chipping, smoothing it out, burning off a couple coats of oil, and you're good to go. This usually works. It may not look perfectly black, but it will probably get your griddle back to good condition to start using. I'd start here because it's easier. The other one is a wire wheel, and you can do it on an angle grinder, on a drill, and it's a long process because you are stripping everything off this griddle all the way down, basically back to how you got it from the factory, starting over and then re-seasoning the whole thing. It's a good thing to do if you want to start over. I've done it a couple times, but it is a long process. So if you don't like the way your griddle looks, or you just have some small rust spots, hit it with a pumice stone, some oil, and then burn off a couple coats of oil. Now what should you cook? Well, I have 101 tested griddle recipes in my ebook, along with detailed instructions for this whole video, everything I went over and all the charts I mentioned. So if you want that, it's in the description and it's in the comments. If you want my playlist, which goes a deep dive into more of these little sections, like I said, that's on your screen now. I really appreciate you watching. Congratulations again if you just got a griddle. I hope your family enjoys it and you guys enjoy having breakfast and fried rice as much as me and my family do. Have a good one. Keep on griddling.